Welcome to the What's New in Workforce for ArcGIS session. My name is Jeff Shaner and I'm the product lead for our Field Apps team here at Esri. For this year's session with the 2020 Developer Summit, we want to provide you with an overview of what Workforce for ArcGIS is, show you some of the capabilities of the product, and spend some time showing you what's coming next with Workforce. Before I get going though, I'd like to start by providing you our strategy for field operations, and that'll help put Workforce for ArcGIS in context. Field operations involves many different activities, and within our development process, we're studying those different activities, developing capabilities that fit those different needs, and where appropriate, providing COTS applications that you can use to complete those different activities. They start with the planning and coordination phase of the fieldwork that needs to happen, perhaps integrating with existing work management systems, building information models that you can use for data collection activities, being able to coordinate the office and the field staff with one another, being able to see where workers are in real time so that you can assign work to them effectively using location. Then moving out to the field, being able to navigate to the location of the work that you need to complete in the most efficient manner. Being able to get turn-by-turn directions and voice guidance, being able to get right to that activity of data collection or updating existing asset inventories or doing maintenance work as swiftly as possible. Using maps for a contextual reference and gaining understanding, having that digital map book that's always up to date. We've been building an application called Explorer for ArcGIS that's designed specifically for that purpose. It integrates with our Workforce product we're going to talk about today, and you can use it to redline and sketch on top of the map, give that information back to the GIS staff, and perhaps improve your mapping products. We have several opportunities for data capture. We're going to show you a little bit of Survey 123, but also there's a collector for ArcGIS and a new product called Quick Capture, all of them designed to help you quickly capture information while you're out in the field, be able to update that information in real time, and perhaps mark observations if you're simply using our field applications in, say, an emergency management context. Also really important is being able to monitor where your field workers are and where they've gone. So we have a solution that is recording location tracks and uploading them to ArcGIS so that you can share them either for improved situational awareness or perhaps to visualize where someone has gone and do analytics against that. It's quite effective if you're looking at where your contractors have gone and want to be able to equate that level of service equipment to the work that's actually being accomplished. So let's start in with Workforce. Where does Workforce fit? Hopefully you can see that it fits well into the planning and coordination phases of the work that needs to happen. Workforce is included with your ArcGIS subscription. There's no extra cost to it. There's a web component that the GIS analyst can use that lets you administer what we call workforce projects. That same web application has a view for dispatching work, basically creating assignments and assigning that work to your field workforce. And then a mobile application that really organizes the field work that needs to be completed. It acts as the digital to-do list for your field workers. And it also can remotely control all of the other applications that are a part of our field operations suite. So using Workforce and having that organized to-do list really helps optimize your field operations. You know, when we designed and built Workforce, we were looking at primarily organizations that today perhaps used a spreadsheet to manage work activities, maybe got their workforce together in a room and talked about what each person was doing every day. But what we've seen since the launch of Workforce is that it's being used for a variety of different use cases. Anything from organizations that need a simple tasking tool for emergency response or public safety in general, to the cases I just mentioned, to large workforces like Transport for London that have thousands of field workers out and need to coordinate their activities. Okay, so let's start by looking at the GIS administrator's view. For that GIS person, Workforce can be launched from the app switcher. And the Workforce web application opens up and you can create a new Workforce project. This Workforce web application is a fairly simple, easy to use web app that kind of guides you through the creation process. What it's doing when it creates a new Workforce project, it's actually creating 2 web maps for feature services. It's organizing them into a folder, sharing that into a group, and making it available for your field workforce to get started with. The next step is really creating a set of assignment types. These are the types of work that your field workforce completes each day. It could be, in this case, for your water operations group that are completing hydrant inspections or valve inspections or doing locates. Then you want to decide what users, essentially both the field workers and the dispatchers in your organization, can use the project that you've created. The mobile workers sign in with their ArcGIS identity on the mobile application. The dispatchers sign in with their identity inside of ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise and can open up this same web application and use it to create and assign work. With those mobile workers, you can add additional information like their phone numbers or some basics around their job title or qualifications, information that the dispatcher can take advantage of when they're looking at who to assign work locations to. So let's take a look next at some of the other features you can configure. One of the most common things you can do is from the Overview tab, actually go to the dispatcher's map and add additional layers to it or modify the layers that we've already created for you. In this case, I'm going to set the map extent for the dispatcher. This data set that I'm using to demonstrate is in Naperville, Illinois. So I'll zoom in to the areas of interest and save the map so that when the dispatcher opens it up, it's centered right there for them to know where the field workers are and what they can assign. I'm also adding in asset layers. This is the water utility network that I'm going to use not only to visualize where our assets are in conjunction with those assignments that need to be created, but also I can, inside of the web application as the dispatcher, tap on one of those assets and create new assignments from them if I like. And we'll show you that in a little bit. What I'm not doing here, but you can do, is also configure the Workforce web application. And in doing that, you're providing additional reference layers, not layers that they're going to edit, perhaps, inside of the Workforce mobile app, but those that provide contextual reference for the mobile worker. You might want to add that same set of asset data, and you might want to add different layers within it as well. It's really up to what the project needs are for your different workflows. The next thing that the GIS analyst can do is configure app integrations. I mentioned earlier that Workforce integrates with all of our field apps. So you can see here how I can do an integration for this project with Collector for ArcGIS, and even down to that specific assignment level. And even there, I can choose to, when I launch collector, pass information about the assignment into fields in the new collection activity that's going to happen. In this case, I want to pass the asset ID in for the work ID. I could do the same for survey 123, passing information with it. And by default, we'll also set up an integration with a navigator for ArcGIS. So you can see that Workforce can launch, and I'll show it to you when we look at the mobile app, it can launch these other applications to complete the work. You want to think about the workforce layers being the layers that you assign work. They're the actual pieces of work that needs to get done. They have date timestamps associated with them for when you start, when you complete the work. But then the actual activity, whether it's doing an inspection, whether it's collecting new information, whether if it's doing a locate, all of that's happening in collector or survey or whatever other application you want to integrate with. Okay, so just to kind of sum that up, as a GIS administrator or analyst, I need to have the publisher privileges to create new items inside of my organization. That's all I need to create a new workforce project using all those steps I just showed you. And you can configure the assignment types. You can add users that are dispatchers or mobile workers. You can configure the maps and layers. You might want to actually configure things like the refresh interval, the layer refresh interval, so that the dispatcher's seeing updates that are happening to the information that's being collected in Collector or Explorer, or Survey 123 directly inside of that dispatcher's view too. There's a lot of things that you can do there. And you can configure those app integrations. I did want to mention too that what we're seeing most often is that that planned work, perhaps it's regulatory compliance work, it's routine maintenance work, it's those inspections that you need to do each and every month or week or year. Those get scripted. And then you can use the Python API to do that work. You could actually use the Python API to create and configure projects too if you want. But most of that planned work is part of the GIS analyst's responsibility. They integrate in some instances with external work management systems like Maximo or SAP or Hansen or whatnot. There's a variety of those. We actually have some partners that can do that integration with GeoNexus and GeoDecisions and Miller Spatial, all providing those integration points for external systems that get you up and running. And then what I'm going to show you next with the Workforce web application of creating assignments is really happening for that exception-based work or that unplanned work that comes up during the day. All right, so let's take a look at that. Now what you can do once you have that workforce project created, if you're, say, that dispatcher, is open it up. And here's the view you're going to see. There's all of those assets. I have a panel that lets me create new assignments. I can look at the worker locations as well. What I'm going to do is create a new assignment. And when I get a drop-down list here, first the assignment types, I can pick hydrant inspections as we added that as a type. I can set its location. There's many ways to set that location. I can choose who I'm going to assign it to. Assignments have properties like the priority, the due date, the time at which it needs to be completed. An ID field, commonly if you're using a scripting approach, that might come as a work order ID from an external system. It's a 4,000 character limit text field, so you can put whatever you want in it. You can add a description. You can also add files if you'd like. Maybe it's information that's relevant to doing, let's say, an inspection of a backflow preventer, where those are quite involved inspection workflows. You want to give step-by-step directions and let the user follow along from an attached PDF. Likewise, I'm adding a valve inspection here. I'm adding the same kind of properties that you saw earlier. But what I wanted to do was show you that there's multiple assignment types that you can generate assignments for. And in this instance too, what I've done is I've tapped on that specific hydrant valve, and I've used its location to generate the new assignment. So you can see there's multiple ways to do that. I've done 2 individual assignments here, but you could also generate a selection and do that in bulk. So let's take a look at kind of that summary view of what is it you can do as that dispatcher using the Workforce web application. Well, I can create new work assignments by geocoding. I didn't show that to you, but you could type in an address using the search capabilities. Or if I've configured search in that web map based upon an asset ID, perhaps I could search on that, use its location to generate a new assignment. I can tap on the map. I can do it from features. I can do it individually. I can do a selection set in bulk and do it in bulk. I can filter and sort those assignments in the list. I didn't show you any of that because I only had 2 assignments in there. But if I wanted to just look at all the unassigned work, perhaps it's come in from a separate system, I could filter to just show all that unassigned work. And I could sort them based upon priority, perhaps, and then start assigning it. I can view the current location of all our mobile workers and see how much work they have assigned to them already. That might be a factor in what I want to assign and who I want to assign it to. And like I mentioned already, you can search the map. And I did mention this already too, but you can use that Python API to automate the creation. We've got some sample Python scripts that show you how to take information from, say, a spreadsheet or a CSV file and actually load that as assignments. You know, the other thing you could do as a GIS analyst is build a little workflow for your dispatchers where they take a spreadsheet and they use the append capabilities as well. So you could just append into the layer because it's just a feature layer and create new assignments that way too. Okay, let's take a look over on the mobile device. Now, I can open up that Workforce project as the mobile worker, see my list of assignments. I can sort them in different ways. Here I just changed the assortment to by priority. I can tap and view my assignments, those 2 assignments on the map. And I can change my working status if I'd like. So if I'm going on a break, the dispatcher's aware of it. Then what I can do is I can tap on one of those individual work assignments and access its details. Note, you can also see new work assignments that come in. I just happen to get 2 locate assignments come in to me right now. So hey, I tapped on that. I've got the details. I can tap the start button to start the new work assignment. This is integrated with survey. So it launches survey 123. I can set the service condition, sign it, fill out those details, send that information back, come back to the Workforce app, make some notes about the work I just completed, perhaps. Maybe saying that some painting work might need to be done. I could take photos if I wanted to about the state of it and then finish that work. You can see I have this kind of life cycle to the work assignment for me as the mobile worker. And in each state of that life cycle, it's logging an individual date timestamp. The really great thing about that is then I can take that information and I can actually go forward and model the time it takes to complete different types of work, if I'd like to. So knowing that that's available as part of the schema, it can be quite powerful for you. Okay, we've talked about the mobile app as well, and we've shown it to you. There's a lot of information here that we should talk through. You can essentially use that mobile app to organize your work, right? It's your to-do list. It's polling that feature service periodically for the assignments that have been created by the dispatcher and assigned to you, so that you can grab them and start to complete them, and they'll show up in the priority that are given to you. They have details such as a location, notes or descriptions. They can have attached PDFs or photos associated with them. You take it through that life cycle where you're completing the assignment. You can also reject work assignments if you don't feel that you can complete them. You can pause them as well if you need to finish your day and come back the next day and complete them. You can launch the other mobile applications to complete that work if you'd like. Some work assignment types really don't need an integration because you're not actually capturing anything. So just know that you could use Workforce by itself. And it's continually broadcasting your working status when you're in an active working state. So the dispatcher knows where you are. You could have an operations supervisor provided with a dashboard that's showing current location of the field workforce during the day and tallying up all the work that needs to be completed. It has been completed, showing the inspections themselves. It's quite powerful what you can do with the dashboard. Okay, that's a good overview. What's our current status? Our last release of the Workforce product was late last year. In the web application, we actually ended up dropping support for IE11 as a part of that effort too. So as we move forward, make sure that you're using Chrome or Edge or one of the more recent browsers. Some of the latest improvements for the administrator: integration with Explorer, passing the global ID. We've done a lot of work in providing this Workforce module with the Python API. I really encourage you to check that out. We've allowed you to attach photos and videos to assignments, and there's a number of resources. I have a resource slide at the end of the presentation that you can look at as well. But I wanted to spend the rest of our time today focused on what's coming next, because where we sit right now at this time is in the middle of a really big new release. Our plans are to ship this in the summer with the update to ArcGIS Online and coincide that with ArcGIS Enterprise 10.8.1. But we're in beta on the iOS platform and with the web application right now. So here's a QR code that you can scan. If you're using perhaps an Android device, can't scan that, there's the URL to get into the early adopter program. Please join us with this beta program. It's a very significant evolution of Workforce. The biggest thing we're doing, and it's really the focus of this entire release, is supporting offline workflows. And I'll show you much more about that here in the next couple of slides. But we're also, on the mobile side, moving up to the latest versions of our runtime SDK so that you can have all the latest and greatest mapping capabilities as part of the next release. Also, at that same time, we've been making a whole bunch of improvements to the overall mobile user experience. So we really want you to check it out and give us feedback. Another big thing is that we've altered the project schema. We've done a number of improvements. The schema is documented in the early adopter site, so we encourage you to go check it out, especially if you're using Python today and doing integrations that create new work assignments. You want to go and see what's changed and how that's going to impact you and what new capabilities it brings for you. In the web side, we've been updating the web application to the JavaScript 4x API. So that brings with it the great new mapping capabilities that are a part of that version of the API. It also lets us bring in some of those widgets too, like the ability to switch base maps, for example, and a host of other things that we'll be bringing along as we move forward. We're also adding in the ability to display tracks directly from Tracker for ArcGIS. So if you've got a Tracker and you want to be able to see where you've gone, and even if you're completely offline, you'll be able to see those tracks inside of Workforce. We've already added that to Collector and Explorer, so if you're familiar with the Tracker integration there, this is very much the same thing inside of the Workforce product. Okay, so let's talk about projects and how this is going to move forward first. I mentioned that there's a brand new schema, so what does that mean if you're using Workforce today? You saw right there in the web application, there were our classic projects and new projects. I can configure classic projects. I can open them up in the dispatcher view, just like I do today. I can also create new projects that will leverage this offline experience and have a dispatcher view of that, all in one Workforce web application. So it's not that you'd have to have a separate web application. Both are combined into one, and we've kind of separated out the classic projects from the new projects. And yes, you'll only be able to create new projects as we move forward. So you'll want to think about that as we move forward too. We also provide the ability for you to migrate the schema of projects from classic to new as well. You'll have to bring over the assignments that you want to bring over, but we'll provide the schema migration for you, so you don't have to think about that. On the mobile side of things, we're going to do very much what we did with Collector previously, in that we'll take the existing Workforce mobile application and rename it to Classic on your phone, do an update there, and then release a new listing for the new application, the new Workforce application. You can see how on the device they can live side by side. One will kind of have a grayer tone to the icon than the new one. The new one opening up the new offline projects, of course. The old one still able to open up the classic projects, which, yes, you can use the same brand new web app to configure and dispatch those classic projects. Okay, let's talk about some of these new capabilities that are coming as well. The most prominent, of course, being offline capabilities. So when you launch the new Workforce mobile application, right away, in order to open up a project, it needs to be downloaded to your device. So we want to make sure Workforce always has your back, and that's accomplished by taking the Workforce project schema and making sure it's always writing local to your device, and never having to rely on connectivity in order to move an assignment to an in-progress state or to complete it. You should be able to work whether you're completely offline or in kind of an intermittent connectivity or low bandwidth scenario. And when you're done with your projects, you can just remove the project data from your device. That's the same experience you have today with Collector. What about the website? Well, on the website, you can optimize that whole overall download process by creating offline map areas for your project. Then your mobile worker just simply has to tap on that assignment. It's going to download the area that was already created with the pre-planned map area capabilities that are part of the platform I'm showing you here. And that really will streamline the overall process. You can see here I'm creating an irregular shaped area that's really defining our project extent. It's going to take all those additional layers, the asset data too, if I've got that in my mobile workers web app, and it's going to package it up. So I just have this one simple download to do on my mobile device. And that should really improve the overall process for getting up and running with these offline projects, because now all that data is downloaded once onto the device. You take that initial hit just once, and then we'll keep that project and all of its data in sync using the synchronization capabilities. Now, you might be wondering, well, what happens if I've got layers in my mobile workers web map that aren't sync enabled? We'll still be able to work with those layers. They'll require that you have connectivity in order to see what's happening and get updates from them. So do consider that. But all other layers, if they're feature layers and they're sync enabled, then we'll just download them as part of the project. Let's take a look at the Workforce mobile user experience. I mentioned that we have a new user experience. What we've been doing over the last while is unifying that user experience between Collector, Explorer, the Tracker application, and the Navigator app. So what I'm going to do is start running this video that I've got embedded inside of the slide. Here you can see I've opened up the project. I've got all those layers that I had cached and taken offline. I've got that same sliding panel that I have in Collector or Explorer or in Tracker. So that user experience can be very familiar if you're moving across applications. When I tap on an assignment, you can see the assignment details, where we have this very large kind of prominent button that lets you change the status of the work assignment. It launched Survey 123 just like the classic app does, lets you complete that work assignment, and then I can come back and finish it. I'm just going to pause really quickly and come back a bit on that video to show you that we also have the tools like the ability to capture photos and other attachment types right there and prominent in the user experience for you. You can see a toolbar at the bottom. That toolbar is where you launch those other applications as well. Using the ... over the finish button is where you can change your working status too. So a lot of exciting new user experience capabilities there inside of the application. The offline capabilities, I wanted to talk about this as well. So once you're downloaded and offline inside of the Workforce mobile application, it's going to have your back and synchronize with kind of an adaptive auto sync capability. We've done a lot of work here in making sure that the worker status stays up to date regardless of you having to sync. We don't necessarily want you to be manually syncing that work. We want to keep the dispatcher informed at all times. So if you're in progress with a work assignment, we're going to up the frequency of when we auto sync your location so that the dispatcher knows, hey, you're actively completing this work, and you're engaged in that specific assignment, and they're getting those regular updates. And then once you've finished it, we'll throttle that down a bit. So we're very conscious of the battery life when we're doing this, and making sure that also at the same time the dispatcher gets the most frequent updates when they need to. I'll just let the video run again, and you can see what I did do was I tapped on the sync button. So at any point in time, I can override the auto sync, and I can tap the sync button and push information up. And maybe that's because I've worked in an offline area for a while. I need to get those assignments that were completed back up and available to the dispatchers so they know right away. I can also turn off the auto sync capability if I want. So if I turn it off, then what benefits do I have? Well, I could review the work that I did and the notes that I made and the information that I captured before it gets sent back up. And that can be quite powerful. It's a new feature that you never really had before with Workforce. So overall, I just wanted to let you know our plans are that we have this open beta now. It's available with iOS. There's that QR code that you can scan again. The Android beta is coming soon. It's probably about a little over a month away for us to get it in a state where you can start to use it with this new project schema. In the beta, we have a test flight version. Just like with the final release, you can use it side by side with the released version of Workforce. You can use the beta version of the web application, create new projects into your organization within ArcGIS Online, and have those live side by side with your classic projects. I should note that the beta program is for ArcGIS only. Really, we want you to use the updates we can provide most frequently there. When we do release this summer, it will be coinciding with the ArcGIS online release that happens. We'll also ship with ArcGIS Enterprise 10.8.1. That's our plans as they stand today. Of course, as always, I should add a disclaimer that our plans can change. So make sure that you stick with us in the beta program, because that's where you're going to get the most frequent updates. And if we do have changes to the schedule, then you're sticking with us. We've got lots of exciting new things we want to do after that. We've been asked by a lot of customers to be able to have the mobile worker pick up work that's nearby them. A lot of organizations provide more autonomy to their mobile workers so that the mobile worker can actually not only complete the work that's already been assigned to them, but they want to see what's not assigned to them. And while they're at that location, grab it, assign it to themselves, and complete that work before the day ends. Across our field apps, we have a lot of exciting work ahead of us. Geofencing, both in a connected and a disconnected way, is something that we want to look at and start to build capabilities into. Providing push notifications out to improve the overall efficiency of the way that you get assignments and let you get those assignments when Workforce isn't running on the device. But we also really want to hear from you. So go to the Ideas site, come into our beta program, and actually give us some feedback. Let us know what you want out of Workforce as we move forward. We've got a couple of surveys in the beta program right now. So please join us and let us know where you want to see us go in the future. So here's a few resources I wanted to provide. Obviously, you can go to our product page on Esri.com and see an overview of what Workforce can do. It also has a number of case studies, so you can see what other organizations have done. If you are interested in providing us with a case study and highlighting to others what you've done in your organization, we would really love to hear from you. You can contact us through that beta program or email workforce for ArcGIS at Esri.com, and that'll come right to our development team. So we do want to hear from you. We do want to make your stories well known by others, for others in the community. Our documentation website is top-notch, so please check it out. You can see all kinds of great information there, including some Learn lessons that show you how to get up and running with workforce in your organization if you haven't used it before. As always, we have a GeoNet community group on the GeoNet website, and we encourage you to go to that website and talk to your peers, talk to us on there. We're considering that with this session, once it's live, perhaps we'll post a blog article around that, and we can have a discussion for it too. Unfortunately, with a recorded session like this, you miss out on the whole Q&A aspects of it. So we're going to have to do that virtually through the GeoNet site. So please take a look at our GeoNet community group, and when this is live, we'll get a posting out for it, and we can have chats there. I mentioned this a few times, but we have a really great GitHub repo that shows a bunch of Python scripts we've created that are part of the apps module. And then our team put together a set of demonstrations or examples for this year's Developer Summit that unfortunately we didn't get to show you. But one of my favorites there that I encourage you to check out is one that actually will take any workforce project that you have, and it's going to create a brand new dashboard for you, either in a light skin theme or a dark skin theme. You can add your own layers to it and configure your own visualizations and get it up and running for you quickly inside of your organization. We always see that our customers are pairing workforce and our field data collection apps with dashboard projects to show progress. So we're trying to make it a little bit easier for you by providing you a little script you can run for each and every workforce project that you have. But there's many more scripts. Some really, really cool things are out there. So if you're a Python developer, or even if you're not and you have one in your organization, check them out, because you're going to get some pretty interesting ideas from it. Speaking of ideas, I mentioned this already, but please go to the Ideas website where you can send us your thoughts on where you want to see workforce go next. We're really driven by your feedback, so we want to make sure that what you send to us is what we can prioritize and work on next. So thank you for your time today. I encourage you to join the GeoNet community and have discussions around this recording, and thank you for listening.